What's going on, guys? This is Jack, coach of your Wenatchee Wobbuffets, bringing you our Season 6 Team Builder video. So this draft went on pretty well. I only got sniped once, although it was a pretty significant snipe. It did put a huge dent in my team building and my team cohesion a lot. However, I hope that at least that I have patched up that hole at least a little bit well. But I'll get into that later once we get there. For now, let's go over our first two picks. So the first two picks kind of went hand in hand. Um, the first two picks are of course Scissor and Mega Altaria. I wanted to grab Scissor first around one just because I felt like there was a greater chance of that being sniped. Uh, Going around on the wheel pick than Mega Altaria. Mega Altaria has gone undrafted almost every season, I believe. It doesn't really get picked up that often, so I felt like it was going to be safe for round two. So I grabbed Scizor. I just really like these two bonds together. They cover each other's weaknesses extremely well. Scizor only being weak to fire, which of course is resisted by Altaria's dragon typing, and then Altaria being weak to steel, poison, and ice, which are of course covered by Scizor. They're both defoggers, which is really nice. I get some really nice hazard removal right off the bat. They both can set up Scizor with Swords Dance, Altaria with Dragon Dance, and of course Altaria can also act as a special attacker as well with Hyper Voice and Fire Blast, or physical with Return and Earthquake, providing really nice coverage moves across the board. It also has really great defenses as well, with a great defensive typing and access to Roost, Heal Bell, and that kind of stuff. So it can function both as a cleric as well as an offensive presence, or just an overall support mon. So I felt like these two were really nice pickups right off the bat. My next pick was Vaporeon. So I felt like I really needed a dedicated special wall just because Scizor does have some nice physical bulk with a base 100 defense stat. Not as good special bulk with base 80, and of course fire moves generally come from the special side as well. So I really wanted a dedicated special wall slash tank that resists fire moves, so I can reliably switch that in. It also gets access to Wish and Heal Bell, so it makes a great support mon, and of course Wish keeps it itself in the game as well, making it more reliable to be able to take those fire type moves. It also starts setting up my Water Grass Fire Core, which I'll patch up in the next two picks, which of course my Fairy Steel Dragon is already covered by Scizor and Mega Altaria. One of the only options available that cover a Fairy Steel Dragon core with just two mons, which is really nice. Vaporeon also has, a lot of people overlook its base 110 special attack stat with access to Scald, Ice Beam, and then it doesn't get a huge offensive move pool, but keeping that special attack stat in mind is really nice because it can hit stuff relatively hard with stuff like Scalds, Ice Beams, and stuff like that. And then our next mon is Celebi. So Celebi is our mythical. This, I believe I've had a mythical. Oh, go away! Stop that. Sorry, we might get a few notifications like that. My computer's acting up. Celebi, I believe we've had a mythical base 100 mon every season of the LSBA. I had Manaphy seasons 3 and 4, and then I had Mew 4 and 5, and now I have Celebi. Celebi is, oh, I think I had Shaman, I think season 4 as well. I think season 4, oh, I also forgot Victini. I've had almost all the mythicals at this point except for Jirachi. Yeah, now that I have Celebi, I believe Jirachi is the only base 100 mythical that I haven't had on an LSBA team. So I guess I'll have to pick that up maybe next season. But Celebi is just a bond I've wanted to use for a while. It has decent both offensive and defensive typing, I think. Of course, it does have a 4 times weakness to U-turn, which I feel like is patched up really nicely with Scizor, Altaria, and then a couple of picks down the road as well. And it gets access to both Sword Stance and Nasty Pot with good move pool options on both sides of the spectrum, which allows you to change it up. It gets access to Healing Wish, which is really nice. So I believe, and of course it also gets access to Synthesis. So my first 4 picks all have access to really nice, reliable recovery. And also, in all 4 of these Pokemon can function as either an offensive mon, or support with Celebi getting stuff like Healing Wish, of course. It gets Baton Pass, Calm Bind, and other stuff like that. It gets access to Stealth Rocks too, which gives me gives me a rocker. Um, and it also gets access to Natural Cure, which makes it a really nice status absorber. It could U-turn out or Baton Pass out, getting in, coming in, absorbing a status move or some kind of resisted hit, and then being able to turn back out into the appropriate offensive threat. I just really like Celebi. I think I'm really excited to use it for this season. The 4x weakness to U-turn is a little problematic, especially since this is a draft format, and U-turn and Volt Switch are relatively common strategies in the draft format, so that might be a bit of a hindrance. But like I said, I feel like that U-turn weakness is patched up pretty well in my team. Oh, shut it, Discord. Discord, you're getting muted for now. There we go. Hopefully we should be done with that. And then our last mon to round out our Water, Fire, Grass core is Rotom Heat, which I used back in Season 3. I love Rotom Heat. It's my favorite of the Rotom forms. I just really like its typing in Electric and Fire. With Levitate, it only has 2 weaknesses to Water and Rock. Access to Pain Slit, it's another defogger, so I don't have to rely on Scizor and Altaria to get those defogs off. Volt Switch, so I got a really nice Volt Turn core in Scizor, Celebi, and Rotom. Its only Fire Stab is Overheat, which is a little unfortunate because you can't really slap a Specs on it, and you can't reliably spam those Fire type moves to get the sweeps. But it does have a really nice offensive special attack with 105, but of course it's really known for its nice bulk as well with base 107 defense and special defense. Not great HP, but with Pain Split, it can keep in the game relatively long as well. Yeah, and then I believe that's it for Rotom Heat. And so in my first 5 picks, I have both Fairy Steel Dragon core and Water, Grass, and Fire core, which is really nice. The next one I was a little torn up about. I was looking at tier 4 fighting types, which there are a lot. I was looking at Medicham. I was looking at Hariyama. I was looking at Hitmontop. But I decided to go with Scrafty. Scrafty gets 3 outstanding abilities in Shedskin, Moxie, and Intimidate. Moxie being able to getting access to Dragon Dance. You can set up a Dragon Dance and then start getting those Moxie sweeps under the way. Intimidate, it does have really nice bulk and base 115 defensive stats. So with Intimidate, it does really come in nicely on those physical moves. Absorb a hit, and then hit back as well with a respectable base 90 offensive stat. And then also gets access to Shedskin, being able to run like bulk up rest sets, and then being able to potentially sugar off those sleeps, as well as other status effects like Burn, Paralysis, Toxic. And then it also has a really nice move pool as well. I was considering making Scrafty one of my Z-Mons. Oh, I forgot to mention Celebi is one of my Z captains, just because it has a really nice access to a lot of offensive options for those Z coverage moves. And I was also considering Scrafty as well, specifically because it does get Thunder Punch, which allows it with a Z move to more easily break through like bulky water types as well as flying types. But I decided to hold off on that, although I might later on use a trade to make Scrafty a Z captain, just because it is pretty tempting. But other than that, it gets a really nice move pool overall. Gives me a stab knockoff. Gives me another Dragon Dancer, although it does have pretty poor speed, so you have to set up like 2 Dragon Dances reliably in order to start actually sweeping. So the bulk up set is generally what you see more often. But then it also gets stuff like both Drain Punch and High Jump Kick. Drain Punch in case you want to be more of a bulky set, stay in a little bit longer. High Jump Kick if you want that immediate power. But it also has really nice coverage moves like Head Smash or Stone Edge if you don't want the recoil. Poison Jab for those fairy types, as well as Iron Head. And the elemental punches, Fire Punch and Thunder Punch, stuff like that. Going into our next mon right here, we have Lycanroc. I love Lycanroc Midnight form. It is my favorite of the Lycanroc forms, even though it is the lowest tier. Just because I love the ability No Guard with Stone Edge. Stone Edge is just such a great spammable move, and I really hate the base 80% accuracy. So the fact that it gets No Guard Stone Edge is really nice. You could slap either a Choice Band or a Choice Scarf. It does have a base 82 speed stats, so it outspeeds all of those like regular base 80 scarfers like Chandelure and stuff like that. Or slap Abandon it with base 115 attack and just go with those Stone Edges. It also gets some nice coverage moves as well, such as Brick Break, Crunch, it gets Fire Fang, Fire Punch, to break through like Steel types, stuff like that. Stomping Tantrum, of course, Sucker Punch for priority. The other thing it does give me another rocker, so I don't have to rely on Celebi to constantly get up those rocks. I just really like Lycanroc. I've been kind of wanting to use it in draft format for a while, ever since it was released in Sun and Moon, just because I just think it's a really cool Pokemon, and I needed a tier 5 Pokemon anyways, so yeah. And then going into our next one, we have Nidoqueen. I just had some extra points that I was not expecting to have at this point, and Nidoqueen was still available, and I just figured I gotta pick it up. Nidoqueen is surprisingly almost always goes undrafted. I think it has been picked up in free agents a couple of times, but I don't think it's ever been actually drafted in like the central like beginning draft, which is really surprising. I actually think it works better than Nidoking in draft format, just because it's better bulk, allows it to be a bit more flexible than Nidoking. Nidoking, you kind of just have to run it speedy offense, whereas Nidoking, you can run it bulky and have it have like Stealth Rocks and Toxic Spikes. It does give me Toxic Spikes, which is really nice, and another rocker. Or you can run it more offensive. The other thing about Nidoking is it actually generally hits harder than Nidoking, because even though Nidoking has the higher offensive stats, because it's less bulky, you generally want to run it timid, so that it take advantage of its better speed. Whereas Nidoqueen, since it is natural bulky, you can generally afford to run it modest, which allows it to actually hit harder than Nidoking, which is pretty cool. But then you guys know what the Nidos do. Sheer Force, of course, makes them really nice wall breakers with Life Orb, and really nice coverage moves with Sludge Wave, Earth Power, Ice Beam, Fire Blast. They get Super Power, Thunderbolt, all that good stuff. And then, so up comes the Snipe. So I was planning to draft Doublade, which of course you guys already know is my favorite mon in draft format. It works so well, just as a fantastic wall. It's typing in Ghost Steel with fantastic defensive stats with Eviolite. It's so good, and I love it. And I was going to pick it up next, but unfortunately it did get sniped by Dylan and the Don fans. It's just, I'm so sad, guys. And I was, when he picked it up, I was, after I got over my initial frustration, I was looking through the draft tiers, looking for something that can fill in, be a good replacement for Doublade, and nothing really does the same job that Doublade does, at least as well. Like, just acting as a fantastic wall that can also hit pretty hard back, immunity to 3 types in normal fighting and poison, and fantastic resistances as well. I was sad, but then eventually I decided to grab Kyurem, which is I think another really commonly overlooked mon. People always, like, obviously it's not as good as Kyurem Black. It does have better special offense than Kyurem Black. Black only has 120, regular Kyurem has 130 base special attack, so it does hit slightly harder on the special side, but of course it does lack the bulk that Kyurem Black has, as well as the fantastic attack stat. But it does have pretty good 130 base attack as well. And it actually has really nice coverage moves as well. It gets Earth Power, it gets Flash Cannon or Iron Head, Focus Blast, of course, Hidden Powers. It gets Ice Beam, of course, but it gets Psychic, it gets Rock Slide, Signal Beam, Stone Edge, Zen Headbutt, This was the other mon that I was considering being as the captain, just because it also gets really nice coverage moves. But I'll go into why I didn't later on when I get to my last C captain. But I'm excited to use Curum. It has really nice bulk as well with base 125 HP and 90 defense and special defense. So the set you generally see in OU is the pressure stalling set with like sub, roost, and pressure, of course, which is an option, but I think it's mostly just going to function as a wall breaker, slap a band or specs on it, or a scarf, life orb. Yeah, I just think Curum is a really fantastic mon that just gets overshadowed a little bit by Curum Black. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to use it. Next mon we have is Wobbuffet. I've been wanting to use Wobbuffet in draft for so long. I was gonna pick it up all the way back in season 3, but Sule did snipe it from me, and I had to grab something else. I forget exactly what I grabbed instead of Wobbuffet. And then I also wanted to grab it season 4 and last year in season 5, but I just couldn't quite find a spot in my team for it. I was trying to figure out what mon I could give up to grab Wobbuffet, but I couldn't really give anything up. But I grabbed it this year just because I had an extra slot and I've been wanting to use it for a long time. It's a one-trick pony. Everyone knows exactly what Wobbuffet does. It has Magikarp probably has the smallest, but it has one of the smallest move sets in the entire game, with access only to 8 different moves, one of them being Splash, the other one being Tickle, or another one being Tickle. But what it does is it traps Shadow Tag for specifically Wobbuffet. Is not banned. You can't use Shadow Tag Gothitelle. But Shadow Tag Wobbuffet is allowed, which allows it to trap stuff in either counter or mirror coat, Destiny Bond, Encore, stuff like that. And with its access to 190 HP, it takes almost every hit and then just boom hits back with counter and mirror coat. Yeah, pretty standard Pokemon, but the thing I like about Wobbuffet in draft format is it has to be a mon that the opponent has to prepare for. Even if I don't end up bringing it, it works in that my opponent has to think twice about bringing Scarfers, because Wobbuffet absolutely loves Scarf mons because they obviously don't hit as hard, and then they're locked into a certain move, so you can just switch it in and then counter or mirror coat back on the Scarfer, so your opponent has to think twice about scarfing their mons. It also really likes a Choice Band or Choice Specs mons, anything that really gets locked into a move, or Assault Vest mons, stuff that can't really play around with what they're doing, while if it just traps them, it hits back. So yeah, I'm excited to use Wobbuffet finally. And then the last mon we have is Dodrio, which is our last C captain. So I thought a while about if I wanted to make Dodrio our Z captain. It does have a much more limited move pool than Curum or Scrafty. The problem is that, or the thing is that Dodrio really likes to be able to have a Z move, especially with the all-out pummeling with Jump Kick, to be able to break through the Steel and Rock types. Although I'm probably going to end up bringing Dodrio less often than Curum or Scrafty. Both Curum and Scrafty can get by with different items, either like a choice or leftovers or life orb or assault vest, stuff like that. Dodrio really only has 2 options. It's either choice band or a Z move. And so that's why I decided to go Dodrio, just because I wanted to give it more options, open the door a little bit to be able to break through the rock or steel type, stuff like that. And yeah, that's it for our draft. I'm kind of excited about using this team. It is the first team in the LSBA where I don't have Doublade, which is really sad. Dylan will not trade it to me at all, which is heartbreaking. But other than missing Doublade, I'm really excited about this team. I feel like it's really well-rounded. I'm lacking a little bit of speed and speed control. My fastest mon is Dodrio at base 110, which, like I said, I'm probably not going to bring it super often. and I don't have sticky webs like I did last year. Um, but I think we're gonna do pretty well. I have a lot of really good Scarfer mons like Kyurem, like Lycanroc, like Rotom, like Celebi, um, and then a few good setup moms like Altaria, Scrafty, Scizor. Um, yeah, so I guess that's it for this team recap. This It's only a few days before the season starts, so my first match is against Rossi and the Michigan Magikarps, who has an insanely scary team. I'm having trouble prepping for that, but thanks for tuning in, guys, and good luck to all of you throughout the season.